Hello again, and welcome back to the Daily Bread Bible Study. We are looking at day 134 for Wednesday, May 13th, 2020, focusing on 2 Chronicles 25 through 28. Here in 2 Chronicles 25, we have murder afoot, as King Joash of Judah was murdered last time, and his son Amaziah takes over. Now, the new king is quote-unquote said to have done what is right in the sight of the Lord, which means he worshipped God. He put the members of the conspiracy who killed his father to death. And after hiring Israelites to join in battle against Edom, he is advised by the prophets of the Lord that this is unwise. And so he actually dismisses the Israelites from his, army, his warring party, and the Israelites are slightly resentful towards him for that. The Lord is not with Israel, which is why he did it. It's also meant to say that Israel is continuing to worship Baal and that they have abandoned God once again. And so he lets go of the Israelites, and God blesses him by giving him defeat over Edom. The king then acts foolishly towards God by bringing back the gods of the Edomites and worshiping them. After threatening a prophet of the Lord, he hears judgment pronounced on him in 2 Chronicles 25:16. I know that God has determined to destroy you, because you have done this and have not listened to my advice. King Amaziah then picks a fight with the kings of Israel, which does not go well. In 2 Chronicles 25:23, it says, King Joash of Israel captured King Amaziah of Judah, the son of Joash, the son of Azahiah, at Beth Shemesh. He brought him to Jerusalem and broke down the wall of Jerusalem from the Ephraim gate to the corner gate, a distance of 400 cubits. He seized all the gold and silver, all the vessels that were found in the house of God, and Obed-Edom with them. He seized also the treasuries of the king's house, all hostages, and then returned to Samaria. Judah is plundered heavily here by their own brethren, the Israelites. In 2 Chronicles 26, King Uzziah reigns after the death of Amaziah. And we have more details in 2 Chronicles than we do in 2 Kings. Yet a similar story can be told about evil and right of the kings. This applies to Uzziah just in general, but it could apply to any king. In 2 Chronicles 26:5, it says, as long as he sought the Lord, God made him prosper. So that could be applied to any of the kings that we have. King Uzziah seeks the Lord in his early days, listening to the prophet Zechariah, leading successful battles over the Philistines, the Arabs, and the Menuhites. We have in 2 Chronicles 26:8, it says, the Ammonites paid tribute to Uzziah, and his fame spread even to the borders of Egypt, for he had become very strong. With that strength, he fortifies Jerusalem, builds up those gates. He built farming structures. He trained strong warriors. This is not the only thing that grew strong in 2 Chronicles 26:16, but when he had become strong, he grew proud, and to his destruction. As they say, pride comes before the fall. This is exactly what happens with King Uzziah. The king seeks to make an offering to God without getting the assistance of the Levites and the priests, the ones appointed by Moses for those tasks, and affirmed by King David for being the only ones who were allowed to do those tasks. But it sounds like a lot of the errors Israel committed are now being committed by, here in Judah. Especially allowing anyone to become priest instead of just the Levites. So King Uzziah is stubborn until God sends a leprous disease upon the king's forehead. Thus the king remains leprous as a consequence of not revering God, and was not allowed back into the temple the whole rest of his life One, because he disobeyed God, and second, because he had an infectious disease that could be spread to other individuals, or at least they were worried that it could be spread to other individuals. So I should mention here in the New Testament, as we think about lepers, that Jesus often is seen as cleansing the lepers and healing, lepers, because Jesus does not necessarily connect leprosy with disobedience of God. In Jesus' mind, all leprosy is not a punishment from God. This is a biblical fallacy. Some leprosy can be a punishment from God, as we have here in 2 Chronicles. This is a truthful, biblical perspective. It follows what the Bible is saying, not what it isn't saying. And so, for Jesus, he's claiming that the isolation of the leprous individuals, is a heart of heart, and they need some form to be able to follow God's rules because maybe they are obedient. Maybe some individuals who have leprosy are in fact obedient to God, and maybe it's not a punishment from God. Jesus wants lepers to be included in the worship of God, often heals them as a sign of God's love, acceptance, and then also inclusion. When the church isolates people based upon fallacy, we should be quick to critique our own practices. So, self-awareness in the church is very important. Moving on to 2 Chronicles 27. Leprosy aside, King Uzziah dies disconnected from God, and his son Jotham reigns over Judah in his place. Jotham is labeled as doing, quote-unquote, what is right in the sight of the Lord. Worship of God is maintained, though the people still follow corrupt practices and corrupted practices. Jotham does more building of the cities of Judah. He even defeats the Ammonites, and he becomes so strong because he ordered his ways before the Lord his God, as it says in chapter 27, verse 6. Moving on to chapter 28, after the death of Jotham, his son Ahaz takes over, and Ahaz does like Ahab. He does not do what is right in the sight of the Lord, as his ancestor David did, but he walks in the ways of the kings of Israel. He even cast images for the Baals. And more importantly, he disregards the worship of the temple of the Lord and disrespects God in God's own house. As punishment, it says in 2 Chronicles 28:5, therefore the Lord his God gave him into the hands of the kings of Aram, who defeated him and took captive a great number of his people and brought them to Damascus. He was also given into the hand of the king of Israel, who defeated him with a great slaughter. Thus the people of Israel take their brethren captive. Yet it's the Israelites who are faithful here. A prophet of the Lord named Oded speaks of the wrath this captivity would incur from God. And the other Israelites agree. The Judeans are clothed, nourished, and set free. Good for you, Israel, showing Judah what they should be doing. King Ahaz of Judah then reaches out to the king of Assyria. This proves to be unwise, as Assyria instead oppresses Judah even after the king plunders the house of the Lord to pay Assyria tribute. King Ahaz makes many mistakes, notably, as it says in chapter 28, verse 22, in the time of his distress, he became more and more faithless to the Lord, this same King Ahaz. For he sacrificed to the gods of Damascus, which had defeated him. And he said, because the gods of the kings of Aram helped them, I will sacrifice to them so that they may be able to help me. But they were the ruin of him and of all Israel. Thus in 2 Kings 16, we see that King Ahaz moves over the altar of the Lord in order to bring an altar of Damascus into the temple of the Lord. So this is referenced here in 2 Chronicles, even though it's not, explicit. And at the very least, we can say that King Ahaz symbolically makes God move aside for Assyrian worship it is pretty easy to see why King Ahaz would be unpopular in the eyes of the writers. Hopefully we will get back on a good track next time, and as we see, we can expect that with Hezekiah. So have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me again, and look forward to seeing you next time.